Deja vu. That's right. Once again, we have this matchup. My Andromeda or Revoir deck versus Flatline Jinteki. Alright, so this video was made only because, I'm doing a commentary on this video only because I feel that it's worth talking about the risk management. So when you watch this video, I'll talk you through the pros and cons, that the cost benefit analysis that goes on in my head, and maybe that will help you in your matchups against Jinteki PE as well. Of course, if you are playing criminal, you must pack feedback filter. It's an essential component to my strategy. So in this case, my opening hand is almost always a keep against every other corp except Jinteki PE because I want to see that feedback filter early. I really cannot risk having it in the bottom 5 cards on my stack and me losing lots of cards to net damage over time. The sooner I get my feedback filter up and an economic engine rolling, the more faster I can threaten the opponent. And that's very important because if I don't do that before you get 7 agenda points, then the game's over. So here I play Sure Gamble, Au Revoir, and Earthrise Hotel, 3 of the most important cards from my hand. My last click is spent running on his remotes because I suspect that against Andromeda, many Jinteki PEs will attempt to rush out a House of Knives or Gila Hands early on, and I do not want that to happen to me. So I contested on my last click. Psychic Field, I evaded the side game. Turns out 1 is a very popular first bid, so thank goodness for that. So now I can actually focus on building up my economic engine. No feedback filter here. My mulligan hand doesn't have it, so I'm just going to try to assemble the Au Revoir engine as quickly as I possibly can. Along with the Dyson mem chip into Underworld Context, it's very great that I get to start off with that combo. That's what happens when you play Andromeda and you have 4 starting cards. Unfortunately for my case, the supplier didn't come with it. So installing it will be very, very expensive. Alright, on one of my R&D accesses, I saw a Mushin no Shin, and he rightfully uses it to advance a card 3 times. So that's going to be pretty dangerous for me. Here, I can only focus on getting my economy up and hope that it's not an agenda. Turns out it is. Worst case, it's a House of Knives. House of Knives is bad because every net damage essentially takes 3 credits off your credit pool if you're playing feedback filter, which means that it basically sets you back 9 credits. For an agenda that only costs 3 to advance for the corp, that's a very good trade. So that is the agenda I do not want to see him have. In the meantime, I immediately throw my Zuki Master out because, for obvious reasons. I do not want it to become a victim of net damage. Here he attempts to score an agenda behind a piece of ice on the remote, so I do some scouting. It's a Himitsu Bako. The good news is I can jack out and get 1 credit. The bad news is I can't afford to play the Corroder and run in the same turn. Why? Because that will leave me with 2 cards left in my hand, one of which I almost certainly will lose to House of Knives. If I hit a snare, it's game over. So I certainly cannot afford the risk, and turns out it wasn't an agenda after all. Seems like it was some form of bait to lure me into running that server with an inside job. So here he goes. He constructs another remote server. Somehow he seems pretty psychic. He somehow realizes that I have a Corroder in hand ready to attack the server at any time. So here he does the same thing again. He attempts to score behind a remote, threatening me to run. If you don't run, I might score an agenda. So this time I install my Corroder before making a run. Let's see what it is. It's a Komainu. That's very bad news. I do not have a Mimic in my deck. So I need to search for it, and I do so with express delivery. I don't find it. All I find is the logos and the supplier. Tough choice. I went for the logos in the end because the logos will tutor me far more cards than the supplier ever will. But it won't tutor me for this agenda, the Gila Hands, which he scores behind the Komainu. I do prevent it with the feedback filter that I finally found. So yes, the good news is I have some form of economy going. 2 credits every turn is sweet. Unfortunately, that's all there is to it. I need my Au Revoir engine to get rolling as soon as I can. So I begin running his R&D. Now it's still a pretty safe time to run R&D, even though Philotic Entanglement is a threat. I have no agendas in my agenda pool, so I don't have to worry so much about it yet. Only if I find 2 or more agendas do I really need to start worrying about taking some serious net damage. In the meantime, he double ices his remote server, which leads me to think that that is his only way of pumping agendas out, and it probably is. Most Jinteki PEs don't want to win via agendas. They want to win by flatlining the careless runner, but he knows that he's not going to flatline me anytime soon with a feedback filter on the board. So his only hopes are either multiple Mushin Oshins, or Mushin Oshin isn't that much of a threat really. I can just deflect all the run-in net damage with feedback filter. His only other route to victory right now is scoring behind a remote, and that's what he does here. He shows me a Neuro Katana, and I know I cannot contest it. I have way too few credits to get past all the net damage on that server, so I simply attack R&D instead. Notice that at this point, I'm not using certain cards in my hand. Most notably the R&D interface, because multi-access is pretty silly against Jinteki PE, and most importantly, Dirty Laundry. I do not want to gain 3 measly credits at the cost of a card. So he scores a Chronos project, no big deal to me. There's nothing important in my heap, and I don't run the same old thing. The most important thing is that by allowing him to score the Chronos project, I allow myself to tutor my fam. This will be my solution for his next agenda. So sure, you can get 1 more agenda point. You're not even halfway to your victory condition. But I can now stop you from getting there next time you try. But of course, fam is very expensive to install, and that is why the second Revoir comes in very handy. So I can start accumulating some serious cash. But first, breaking through Zuki Master, Enigma with Zuki Master, I find myself a House of Knives. Very, very important. This was a very crucial agenda. If I allowed him to sneak that into the remote, oh goodness knows what nasty things will happen. So I basically spend the rest of my turn gaining 6 credits from Au Revoir, recuperating from the 3 credits that I spent, deflecting the net damage from House of Knives. Now, my hand is completely useless. I can afford to actually take the net damage. And I think this is what I should do actually. Take the net damage to the face instead of deflecting it with feedback filter. So here, I try to contest this card because he could be desperately trying to triple advance a future perfect. I need to call up his bluff. Turns out it's not a bluff, it's a Cerebral Overwriter. And he was trying to bait me to use my feedback filter. I'm not falling for that. Definitely not going to spend my feedback filter to deflect the brain damage, because I can have a hand size of 2 for the rest of the game and still win, because all I need is enough credits to deflect the net damage. That's what counts. The brain damage, only 1 source, and that is hitting a Cerebral Overwriter. I'll just leave it on the board, I won't hit it again. In the meantime, I continue locking his R&D, and he begins firing his House of Knives at me, which is pretty painful for my credit stack, but no worries, I still have more than 10 credits, and here's the crucial game turning point. I find myself the grand prize, Philotic Entanglement. This makes my game so much easier. It means that I can actually run R&D much more safely without worrying about an agenda being scored and dealing lots and lots of net damage on me. Alright, he attempts to score an agenda behind that remote, so now it is go time. Nope. Why? Because I only have 18 credits. If it turns out to be a snare, I need to have at least 9 credits at hand to deflect the net damage, plus 2 credits to clear the tag. That's too much of a hassle. So instead, I'm just going to break through R&D. I'll win through R&D the hard way, and run and jack out 3 times with 2 Au Revoirs for 6 credits. So basically, I'm just keeping up this tempo of accessing 1 card a turn, losing all the net damage that I gain, and then rinse and repeat. Unfortunately, he found the 3rd House of Knives. So that's 3 more net damage that I have to contend. 4 more actually, yes. 4 more net damage I have to contend with. My economic engine is very sturdy. 2 daily casts, 2 underworld contacts, and the 3rd Au Revoir that I luckily drew. I forgot to use logos this turn, but it didn't matter because the card I would tutor is the Revoir that I found anyway. So at this point, I'm just going to solidify my credit lead. He's not posing any threat of scoring agendas right now. He's only on 4 points. So right now, I just need to amass a huge bucket load of credits. Then I can contest his remote at a moment's notice. And that moment is now. He attempts to score what seems to be a Fetal AI or a Future Perfect behind that server, and I go to contest it. Femme Fatale activates. And yes, that forces me to trash the snitch. But it doesn't matter. I run all the way through. He doesn't res any ice. Of course, I access it. Turns out it's a Ronin, which I immediately trash. If that was a Cerebral Overwriter, things would be really dicey, but thankfully, that wasn't the case. Yeah. And that was the end of that. He continued to place pressure on me by placing something in the remote. I'm first going to check his R&D. So locking down his R&D ensures that I know what's coming from his part. So I don't have to play guessing games so much when he slots something into his remote. Now, what's the worst thing that could hit me when I run this server? A snare, probably. But that's fine because I only need to pay 1 credit. I first pay 3 credits to avoid the House of Knives. Then here I realized that if it's a Psychic Field, I might as well just lose my hand now and allow him to Psychic Field for nothing. So I allow him to snipe both of my cards in my hand for 2 net damage with the Komainu, so that in the future, if I do access this server again, it will be easier to get past the Komainu, and I would get a discount on Psychic Field. Because if I spend 2 credits to break the Komainu with Fem, I won't have enough credits to survive a snare. Unfortunately, that was a pseudo snare. It was a Fetal AI. That was incredibly painful. Yeah. I couldn't steal the Fetal AI without flatlining myself, so I had to take the 2 net damage and jack out. This gave him time to play a Mushin no Shin and advance the Fetal AI once. So here, I ran twice with Au revoir, and I asked myself, how much will it cost me to steal the Fetal AI? 2 credits to get past the ice, and 11 credits to deflect all the net damage and steal the Fetal AI. That will leave me with 4 credits. So, why do I want to keep that 1 card in my hand when I can just lose it as 1 net damage? After all, it's faster to draw a card than to Au revoir for 3 credits. The reason is because with 1 card in my hand, I can survive a second Cerebral Overwriter, and that is where the beauty of Feedback Filter shines. If I do hit a Cerebral Overwriter at this point, which is the worst card, literally the worst card that I can expect from this triple advance, turns out it's a Gila Hands, I survive it, I just need to pay 3 credits and I'm good to go. The problem with Cerebral Overwriter is that it deals 3 brain damage, but I can prevent 2 of it with Feedback Filter. Now here this leaves 1 brain damage and I can absorb that with my final card in my hand. Hence I ran with 1 card in my hand. Thankfully, he didn't have enough credits to fire off 2 Neuro EMPs. I could have flatlined that. I was very low on credits. That was a very huge opportunity for him to flatline me, but he was just short of credits. Alright, so I survived that bout and I'm now bouncing back with lots of credits. After 1 R&D run, I steal Future Perfect to win the game. So risk management is very key in fighting against Jinteki. Knowing what's the worst thing you can hit in when making a run on a remote, and mitigating the risk by ensuring that you run only when you are confident enough that you can handle the risk is very important. And if I felt that I wasn't prepared enough to deal with the risk, like if I didn't have enough credits to install the fam and run the server at the same time, I just ignored the remote, went for R&D instead, and built up my credits to fight him another day, because at the end of the day, it takes forever for Jinteki to win via agendas. Exploit that fact. Thanks for watching. Happy net running. Goodbye.